Happy New Year, our users. My name's John Kulas. I'm a 12-year. I guess I can say that now, yeah. Well, I can't say your because that's inappropriate or incorrect. But I'm a 12-year R user, 11 or 12-year R user. Um, but I've been using R for primarily analytical applications. And so I'm a 20-year professor, been using R for quite a while in academic school settings. But in my own personal work, for the majority of those 11 or 12 years, I've also been executing entire projects. So that means papers and slide decks, primarily papers and slide decks. And I've also done websites. We're building a book right now within the same environment that we specify our analyses. And so every week I hang out, and occasionally some people stop by and they hang out with me. But we're just here to promote this way of structuring your work. So if you're in a data science application, and you're doing Python or you're doing R or maybe even Julia, we're going to talk about this other language, Julia, a bit tonight. There's no reason to leave that scripting environment when you want to document, when you want to craft the story around your analyses. There's no need to go to Word, there's no need to go to PowerPoint. You can do it all within your scripting environment. And so I've been having a ton of fun with this for the last 8, 9, 10 years. And I think it's really important. So it's really important because it minimizes both the chances of error, but more importantly, the consequences of error. It makes it so much easier to go back and correct that error. And it turns out that this way of doing things has been kind of standard procedure for certain disciplines for quite some time, since the 70s, 80s, 90s, for many hard sciences. My background is in psychology, so the behavioral and social sciences, we haven't really by tradition been using this way of structuring work, but we really need to. And so I'm here to promote this. I think I'm going to start doing this too, since it's New Year. If you would like to support, I haven't done much in terms of promotion, but I think this coming year I'm going to see if we can grow this a little bit and extend this community. And if you want to help, you can like the video, you can subscribe if you like to subscribe. And that gives you notifications, and then notifications you can hang out with us here. So every Tuesday I'm here live to answer questions live. There's a lot of resources, and I use YouTube resources all the time to help me figure out what I want to do and how to do it. But I wanted to have a live, just someone here if you have questions, literally using the metaphor of, or this concept, an idea of an academic office hour. I'm been a long time professor. I can be your professor and help you out. Might not know all the answers, but I'm pretty good at helping people find solutions to questions that they have. So I'm here for that, and I'll be here every week at Tuesday, on Tuesday at roughly 7 o'clock Eastern, and I usually go for about an hour. I've been bad the last few weeks. I've been going hour 15, hour 20. Tonight I don't think we'll be going over because we're going to be covering a topic that's new to me. It's fully exploratory. The other thing I guess I should mention is the intent of these hour-long sessions is to kind of literally explore in an open-ended manner some feature of using this process to structure your work such that your analyses and your documentation or narration is in the same environment. When we've been covering these different features and different possibilities and capabilities, there's not really much of a script. So the back end of these is always covering a feature in an exploratory manner, but the front end, the first 20 minutes or so, in addition to this intro spiel that I'm giving, the first 20 minutes will be a recap of what we found last week. And so the recap is intended to be a little more structured, not a tutorial, but certainly presented in a manner that's maybe a little more conducive to learning, or easier for learning, I guess. More consistent with pedagogical principles. How about that for something that sounds very academic? And let me say one more thing before we get into it tonight. I tried a different audio setting because I'm not going to say because I don't want people to key in on this if they haven't noticed it, because then you'll hear it if you haven't noticed it before. But just be aware that the next few weeks I'll probably be playing with my audio settings a little bit. So hopefully it's not too bad. It should be fairly consistent. So if I'm too loud, just turn me down. If I'm too weak, go ahead and turn me up. But tonight we're going to take a look at a scripting environment it's intended specifically for the language Julia. Now, Julia is kind of in my discipline, it's a much lesser known language than R and Python. R and Python are kind of the two biggies that people have been using in psychology. Julia is a third language that is accommodated almost universally by these different scripting environments that we've been exploring. So JupyterLab, certainly RStudio and Positron as well. And we're going to see that Pluto is intended specifically for Julia. So it's built only for that language. And the kind of feel of it is similar to Jupyter Notebooks or JupyterLab as we've been using. They're going to be notebooks, but we'll take a look at that. I think we'll have some fun with it. I was playing with it a little bit this morning, and it's neat. It's fun. It's nice to know that there are people kind of shepherding these open source solutions and tools. And my understanding is Julia was kind of a brainchild of MIT, has some affiliation with that university, certainly capable people there. And it's nice to see kind of a little difference in flavor of these environments and languages. And so I'm really looking forward to that. We're going to have fun with that. That being said, I don't know Julia. I don't know Pluto either. So you'll see how someone like me goes ahead and explores new things in that context, I guess. So what we have been spending a lot of time on, we're not going to spend it explicitly tonight, but what we have been spending a ton of time on these weekly sessions is Quarto. And Quarto is the software platform that facilitates the creation of these fantastic, what are called publication-ready documents. They just look really slick, really nice, and the software, I can't think of a situation in which I've had a problem with the software. I mean, there's little differences across versions that are released, but it's just fantastic. And so There is a resource linked here, and I'll probably take it off starting early next year because I've had it on for, I don't know, a month or so, and I can't just keep piggybacking on these people's work. But it's a more traditional text, more traditional in the sense of more traditional in what we do weekly. But it's not a traditional hard copy textbook. It's an online Quarto enabled textbook. But it talks you through, and the content is similar and similarly oriented and fully consistent with what we're doing on a weekly basis as well, which is just saying, this is fantastic. If you're touching data, you should be structuring your projects using a system like this. Okay. So before we get into Pluto, the new stuff, let's do our recap into what happened last week.
Well, Bullwinkle's new manager, Colonel Tomsk Parkov, who is really Boris in disguise, is fixing things for Bullwinkle's first concert for Moon Mice at Colossus Stadium.
And the first thing we fix is you.
What's the matter?
You got to have glamour, son.
Glamour?
Like this.
And the Colonel dressed Bullwinkle in a sequin jacket with neon lapels, gave him a pair of snakeskin shoes with cerise laces, bleached his hair blonde, and combed it into a pompadour.
And just before you go on, we spray your antlers with gold paint.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't want to look conspicuous.
A few minutes later, our boys arrived at the enormous saucer shape of Colossus Stadium. It was already jam-packed with moon mice.
And now, Mr. Golden Throat, a present from your fans.
What is it, Colonel Tomsk?
Electric ukulele.
Thanks a mill, Colonel Tomsk.
Let me plug it in for you. It's the least I can do.
Boris, darling, you flipped.
Don't you believe it?
And opening a door in one of the columns that supported the huge stadium, Boris revealed a frightful sight.
So last week I mentioned that I heard balalaika, and I looked it up, and a balalaika is an actual type of instrument. It's usually three-stringed. It's got a triangle kind of body to it, very different. It's Eastern European in origins, which I guess makes sense with Boris. But when I cut up this week's transition, Rocky and Bullwinkle transition, I thought he was going to spray paint his ankles, but these headphones, maybe I should wear headphones all the time, but he was going to spray paint his antlers, and it doesn't really make the story any different, I don't think, but it was nice actually hearing what Boris intended. And now I know what a balalaika is, and I'm going to keep my eyes open for it. One of those kind of culturally embedded instruments, it looks like, but I love the fact that in the 1950s they just called it out. He's playing a balalaika. So last week we took a look at Positron, and Positron is referred to as the next generation IDE, so the scripting environment. The Posit, the company that brought us our studio, is crafting and making available for all of us good people. I have been a little babyish about Positron because I pop in there, and it's been available now for about 2 years. And I pop in there and I open it and I'm like, this is overwhelming. I don't like it. And I don't know. Not everything that's good for you, you like. So maybe Positron is like the Brussels sprouts of being a baby, and, you grow up. Maybe that's not a good metaphor. And no, it's not a good metaphor because everyone loves Brussels sprouts when they're old because now they're fancy, and when you get them, they're not just Brussels sprouts. They're actually soaked in bacon. And you buy them at Trader Joe's and they come in a tree and it looks cute. And so, bad metaphor. Anyway, I was being a baby about Positron, and I shouldn't be a baby about Positron. And I'm being less baby-like, I think, now with Positron. There is one of the things that kind of helped me with my attitude shift a little bit on it. I'm still not fully adopting it. Unless, again, I mentioned this last week, unless we start to hear some messaging from Posit that says, we know what we're doing, we're the experts, and we think this is what data scientists should be using. Now that's a bold, they're probably not going to say it because there's so many different people that use these environments for different reasons. But I kind of wish they would. I need someone to push me. By the way, I have I'm two-fist in it tonight here. I have water, and I also made myself some hot chocolate. So I bought milk. I don't buy milk that often, but I figured as long as I have milk, I should make some hot chocolate. one of the things that kind of pushed me toward being less babyish about positron was a video by a guy by the name of Albert Rapp. And he really spoke to me directly in terms of the elements of the environment of positron that I don't like. So I really want to like it because I know there's a lot of capability there. Um, but just the interface is kind of overwhelming to me in terms of capabilities. There's just too much there. So what Albert does is he walks you through how to really personalize and customize your environment, and that would definitely help me. And I haven't done it yet, but as I kind of start using positron a bit more, and I think I will. I'm definitely going to follow his recommendations and try to customize my positron so that it's not so just odious to me. Um, and so one of the things we also talked about last week was, I think one of the features that people are really going to like about positron is the data editor. And the data editor it has a few functionality elements to it that are different from what someone coming from an RStudio tradition might expect. And one of the elements that it has is this filtering capability. And so I immediately, when I saw this, I just kind of had a vomit in my mouth kind of reaction because I know people are going to love it. Um, but but there is an overuse and over reliance on spreadsheets in particular in my discipline, and it just leads to all kinds of bad outcomes. Um, and so I have kind of PTSD with anything spreadsheety. Of course, the people at Posit, they know what they're doing, and so what I wanted to check in the interceding week between last week and this week was if we apply these filterings, if there's any danger of that filtering somehow transitioning or transposing or kind of making its way toward the data object itself, such that your pointy and clicky filtery thingies might actually affect your objects, the information that's in your environment, absent you scripting it explicitly. And of course, that's not the case. So I did verify that that's not the case. And so I'm much more okay with the filtering capability in that data editor now, and people are going to love it. It did not work for me last week on the live stream. I did exactly the same thing this past week. I did the same sequence of steps and it worked fine. So we'll get to that in a slide or two here as well. So there are still some, in terms of the reliability of positron, I think it's still getting there. That being said, I didn't install the most recent update. I have a lot of reliance on RStudio, and it's so reliable that I often just ignore updates, and I know a lot of you probably do the same thing. I know at least some of you do because I've talked to you. But I don't think that's a good strategy right now with positron. So I think if they're pushing an update, it probably should be accepted just because it is a newer environment. One of the things that I really loved last week that I thought was fantastic, that before us playing with it, I didn't really spend a lot of time. I don't know if I noticed it or not, but one of the things about the File Explorer is they give you not only the files that are within your project folder, but they give you these little icons, and it's the stupidest thing. So if I really hope there's no developers that stumble across this, like Posit people. I don't think they know who I am or that I exist, but if they were to stumble across this, I would be embarrassed because a user of their platform is like, I don't like it because there's too much functionality. And then, ooh, I love the pictures. Like that would drive me nuts if I was a competent developer. Like you're working on this functionality and the things they respond to are the most trivial things. I deal with that as well. I know everyone does, but I just feel bad about perpetuating it. But I can't help but just acknowledge that I love this aspect of it. So I love the icons. I love that feedback. And mentioned last week, I think people coming from a PC background probably have a little more exposure and comfort with file extensions, the letters that come after the period. And people coming from a Mac, and maybe I may be just talking about my personal experience here, but the people coming from the Mac tradition, I don't know that they have as much kind of familiarity with those file extension types. So the addition of the icons is nice. So what I did actually just a couple days ago was I added a few different file types in here. So I went through and rendered a few different Quarto documents and rendered them in different formats. So I rendered a PDF, and I explicitly, Positron acts on default a little different than RStudio, or at least the way I have my RStudio set up in rendering PDFs the traditional way. So there's an intermediate tech file prior to Pandoc creating the PDF, and the default in RStudio is that tech file is going to be kept. Now I had to go in and actually tell Quarto within Positron that I wanted that, but I'm glad I did, because if you look at the very bottom file type, it says playing. We called our Quarto document playing. You see that there's actually a tech icon. I love that. There's a Quarto icon for the QMD file. There's the standard PDF. There's a down arrow for markdown. So these are all different file types. There's a Word document there that has the standard Microsoft kind of icon. I don't know why I've developed such a dismissive kind of attitude about Microsoft, but I don't know. I feel kind of snooty about them, and I don't know why. They didn't do anything to me. They didn't harm me, but maybe they're competitors. Maybe they're competitors to what we're trying to promote here every week. Me and you. Look I'm going to keep doing that now. I'm going to do that every once in a while. And they have a picture icon for pictures. That's true of both JPEGs and PNG files. And I didn't try kind of some of the less common ones. There's a WebP file type that I probably should have tried. SVGs we talked about a couple weeks ago. I should have tried that, but didn't. But the two main ones that you're probably going to use most frequently, JPEG and PNG, they come through with this kind of landscape icon, which is nice. I tried a couple of really kind of obscure ones to render to see what they came up like. And the EPUB, I don't know if this 4-line icon next to EPUB is specific for EPUB. I kind of assumed that was just kind of a general document icon, but I didn't verify that. I didn't check it. That's neat. I love it. Sorry if anyone from Posit stumbles across this and have anything to do with Positron, that's what I respond to, but I don't know. It's the little shiny, jangly, fun things, I guess, that I should not like, that should not affect me, but it does. I don't know. I loved it. And then finally, if we're just kind of reviewing what happened with Positron, I did mention that the filtering capability was it was a little wonky for me, so it didn't work on the live session, but I did exactly the same I think I did exactly the same sequence of steps. I was interacting with the data object the same way, and it worked fine. So sometimes just restarting your session, right? People, I'm sure, that watch this are familiar with that kind of practice. Maybe it was just restarting the session and coming in fresh. But there's a caveat there that I should acknowledge. There is an update to Positron that I had not yet installed and still haven't installed. And so they have this nice little icon in the bottom left of their IDE of the actual environment itself. And they do this with all of their left-hand sidebar elements. And it says, hey, there's something here you might want to attend to, or there's something here new that you maybe didn't see before. But in this particular case, on the settings icon, it's an update to Positron. I didn't act on that because I have a fairly recent version of Positron. I think I updated it just maybe 3-4 weeks ago or so. So I was taking the RStudio kind of approach, and I'm like, it's fine, it's been working. And I don't think that's proper with this newer IDE. So in the coming weeks and months, as I play with this more, and I see that there's an update, I'm probably going to accept that update. So that's on me. I should have done that. Maybe related to that, they have there's a in the bottom of the file explorer, and that's what you're actually seeing here when you see the Frosty the Snowman narrator guy, Burl Ives we called him because that was the, I think, if my memory serves right, that's the folk singer who did the narration on the narrator there. Um, so it says Quarto image, and there's supposed to be a preview. So the environment in Positron, when we're scripting these documents, these Quarto documents, and that's what we did, was we made a Quarto document. In our studio, there's a preview that shows up within the QMD file itself, within the file that you're scripting. And I've kind of gotten used to that, but I think this is probably a better way to display images. And so how it's supposed to work is you're supposed to put the cursor or your mouse over the image callout itself. So here on line 16, 17, 18, with the arrow next to it, you see a image callout. It's a exclamation point square bracket, and then in parentheses the image itself. So the local image, so if we saved Burl Ives JPEG within our project folder, the preview came up fine in this left-hand pane. But when we tried an internet image, a URL, it wouldn't read. And so it's possible that was, maybe something with my internet or connection or the way I have something set up. But I kind of suspect that it's just a capability that's not fully mature right now quite yet. And that, again, is another reason to go ahead and stay on top of these updates when they're pushed out. Okay, I think that's about it that I wanted to say with Positron. I'm glad we looked at it, and I'm going to continue to look at it. I think we'll definitely do another one of these within a year or so, if I'm still here, if you're still here in a year or so. Maybe sooner than that. If anyone's interested and stumbles across these and wants to explore it more deeply, we can always do that. Again, that's kind of the purpose of this. Somebody has a question and we explore it. People have been asking questions not during the session, which was my initial thought that would be the way that we would structure these, but they've been asking between weeks, and that's fine too. I don't care however you want to do it. I'm here for you good people. Okay. So today we're going to take a look at Pluto, and Pluto is a Disney dog, but Pluto is also a scripting environment for the language Julia. Now it's funny, we've been looking at Positron and JupyterLab as kind of newer to us environments within which to script, and they're both, and it's not just those. VS Code is another example of this. And there's several, but these IDEs seem to be moving toward this polyglot kind of environment. So whatever language you want to use, these providers of the environments, they want to accommodate whatever the language is. Now this is breaking tradition, and I love it. So I think it's awesome, and I've been having so much fun being exposed to different languages. So being in an environment that's comfortable to me, but I can use Python, or I can use Julia, I can use C, I can use CSS, I can use HTML, whatever language you want. We can do them all within these same environments. Pluto is kind of a throwback. So Pluto is saying, this is just Julia. Now they permit markdown and they permit HTML and they permit some capabilities that we probably wouldn't throw into that box of statistical programming languages. Traditionally we were exposed to a statistical platform and language like SAS or SPSS or MATLib or Gauss or BMDP, or there were so many. Each one had its own environment and each one had its own interface. And it was not very common to know people who knew more than, let's say, 4 or 5 of these unique specific languages and environments. Now, of course, there's exceptions to that. My field is one of the exceptions. So my field deals a lot with issues of psychological measurement, and there's very specialized software within measurement applications. At one point I counted out, I had known I think 8 or 9 different computer languages and interfaces to use for IRT analyses and structural equations modeling and Arash modeling, and each of them had multiple capabilities. And then you got your good old standard one. But these modern environments, they say, well, no, just it's a one-stop shop. Just come here and do whatever you want. And I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Now, Pluto's not that. So Pluto's a throwback. So we'll hopefully have a little bit of fun with Pluto. And there's a couple of ways to interact with it. If you want to work along, what I would probably recommend, if you have Julia installed on your machine, you can run these commands here at the Julia prompt, and that's what I'm going to do, so I'll walk you through that. But if you don't have it installed on your machine, what you can do is you can go to, did I mention the slide? I don't think I mentioned the slides. The slides are available in the comments. I hope people use them. I put a little time into putting these together. I have fun with it, so I like doing it, but I hope that people use them. There are resources embedded within the slides. And there's also a link to, and I'm going to keep putting this there, there's also a link to what I'm calling a tutorial to help you build your own report if you just want to kind of know how to get a shell going. So it walks you through how to create a shell, and there's tables of contents, and there's some analyses in there, and there's a bibliography in there, and it should all be able for you to walk through. The only requirement is Quarto. So you need to install Quarto on your machine. And that's outside of R, that's outside of RStudio. That's you install it like a normal piece of software. If you were installing Microsoft, well, I didn't even know how that happens anymore. So I don't know how people install Microsoft Word. But if you were installing whatever random piece of software that your computer says you need before it shuts down due to some horrible virus, you go through that same process with Quarto. But it won't shut down because of a horrible virus, because the Quarto people are awesome and they're virus free. But if you would like to follow along, the second slide in this week's slides has a hyperlink to an online mimic of what I'm going to do locally. So the online mimic kind of gives you a bunch of tutorials on Pluto and how to use it and what it actually looks like. Now, I've gone through 4 of these, and some of them I've found to be more helpful than others. I think what we'll do tonight is we'll walk through at least one of them just to show what the environment looks like. So if you'd like to work along now or later, go ahead and click that hyperlink that's on the Walt Disney script Pluto on the second page of this week's slides. I'm actually going to access the same information. The interface is just a little bit different, but the same information is there. I'm going to access it from my computer. So I'm going to get out of full screen mode here, and I'm going to move this a little bit to the side so I have these commands here so I can see what they are, so I can use them. You can see my funny music that I got going on. RStudio, bye-bye. We don't need you no more. I'm going to go to, Kulas, you idiot. So I had a preview there of the slides, and I lost it because I exited RStudio, and RStudio was what was powering the preview. So I'm going to actually go to this week's slides as they are online at the URL. By the way, this is the last week for the URL, shared URL that I've been using now for 2 years. I'm a little sad about it, but all good things have to end, right? So next week, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next week, but I'll still be sharing the slides somehow. Again, hopefully some of you are using them. So I'm going to, it shouldn't really matter where I am on my computer. I'm going to access Julia the language. Now, a few weeks ago, we walked through how to set up your computer to get Julia installed. That is good hot chocolate. All I need now is a snowstorm and maybe some marshmallows. You know those freeze-dried marshmallows that you got to be really quick because they melt so quickly. They're so good, but like as soon as they don't last more than 30 seconds. I don't know. There's a $1 million idea for someone. Come up with that freeze-dried marshmallow texture and taste, but make them last longer. Hopefully not, hopefully without the help of some carcinogen chemical thing. Ideally, I think that would be nice. But so I'm accessing Julia here, and I've already actually installed the package that we need to access the environment. But if you have not, you want to run these two commands first using package and package add Pluto. I believe that Julia is case sensitive. I know that spaces matter a lot more in the Pluto environment than I thought they would, just playing with it. But I think they also matter within Julia. We'll try it here. So let's see. Let's first of all see if case sensitivity matters. So I'm going to say, again, because I've already added the package, I'm going to start with command number 3 here. So I'm going to say using Pluto with a lowercase p just to see if it throws an error. Looks like it's going to be okay. No, it doesn't like that. Wow. Okay, so that's good to know. So it is case sensitive, but not only is it case sensitive, but it's consequentially case sensitive. It's a good name for a band. Consequentially case sensitive. Or is it too many syllables? And then to get Pluto spun up, I'm going to go ahead and enter the second command here, which is pluto.run. Now the convention in all these scripting languages, there's shared conventions with those parentheses. Those are important. If I leave those off, you're probably going to see an error. Yeah, it doesn't like that. It's assuming that it's a function instead of a command. And so go ahead and put those double parentheses on. Now it looks a little better. And there's Pluto. Hey, Pluto. Haha. You can see I have been playing. These are some of the examples that I've actually already worked through. The extension on these notebooks is called JL. It's a very... we'll create a new one in just a second, but it's a very kind of plain, not at all overwhelming environment. It reminds me a lot more of a stripped down JupyterLab than it does of Positron. We just came from Positron. But these tutorials, they kind of have a little sense of humor to them too, whoever the authors are. And I think there's probably multiple authors. But one of them that's helpful, I think, is this first one that just kind of teaches you about markdown. Now, markdown is the formatting language that we've been using within Quarto to indicate things like italics and bullets and headings and to specify images and image location and things like that. And we're going to be using cells. Just like JupyterLab, we're going to be using cells. And the way to specify a markdown cell, so JupyterLab has three different types of cells. It has a markdown cell type, it has a code cell type, and I think it has a plain text cell type. I'll have to check myself on that, but I believe it has 3. And you have to tell that environment, JupyterLab, you have to kind of choose what cell type it is. You have to designate it. You categorize it. Within Pluto, all cells are just cells. And within the cell, you tell it what you're going to do. And so the way to say that the stuff coming up as markdown is to actually just use the 2 letters MD. Now, actually interacting with it is the same. Oops. So that was kind of neat. So watch the upper right. And so I'm trying to interact. I'm trying to interact with this notebook and change it or ask for something to be done. And so when I do that, the editor run this notebook kind of option up there says, hey, remember me? You may want to do something with me. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, view code I haven't checked. So, okay. So what view code does is next to each of these cells, you're going to see, so when it's not being edited or run, this is how they intend people who stumble across this to encounter it, and it's easy to read. It's a nice looking document. It's not a Quarto document, not publication ready, or just differently formatted. But if we're interested in seeing kind of some of the behind the scenes, we'll be able to see this when we edit it as well. But when I hit this edit, was it edit? No, view code. When I hit the view code button, you see all of these Cleopatra eyes with a asp running across it, or maybe just an eye with a slash. But you see these Cleopatra eyes with a cross going through it, saying that the code that was used to generate this is not currently being displayed, so you can toggle that. So if I toggle it, you see not only what's being displayed, but you see the code that created it. And they have a little double eye icon there that says reading hidden code. That's kind of fun. I hadn't seen that. If we go down to the call out, you can see that the call out, well, we'll get to that in just a second. So I'm going to cancel out of that. But let's go ahead and edit or run the notebook. And now we should be able to interact with it. And so this is how you're going to experience notebooks if you're authoring within these notebooks. Now there's a couple of things that have showed up in the lower right. You see a status bar. I don't know if it's my machine or my Julia installation or if it's Pluto. But these have been taking some time just to kind of get my workspace set up the way it thinks. It could be notebook complexity as well. So again, I'm not familiar with this environment. I'm not familiar with this language. I'm just playing with it. But it is one thing I've noticed is that the status bar that's there, and it's nice, lets you know what's going on. It has actually, when I'm entering these, it's taken some time to kind of spool around. So if a Pluto cell starts with an MD, MD double quotes, and ends with a double quotes, it's a markdown cell. Now these double quotes are going to be important, and I think the convention that they use is if there's more complexity in there, they'll actually use 2 or 3 double quotes instead of just a single double quote. And we should be able to stack things, and this kind of makes it easier to see. So the way to engage these, you can either use the run sign that they have if you want to use your cursor, or they have that same kind of shared across platform convention of shift enter or control enter, and I've been using that all the time in RStudio. I use control enter all the time within code chunks. And you see there the information that's rendered. If we were to put 2 asterisks instead of 1, you see that it goes from italics to what is it called? Bold. If you want to put in a heading, you can say this is a heading and hit shift again. If we want to, so all of the markdown, it's funny, the markdown languages, they talk about different flavors of markdown language in different environments, but really there's so much portability across whether you're using RStudio or you're using, I guess I'm not 100% sure with Positron, if it's got to be using the exact same it's got to use R markdown, I imagine. But I don't know. Oh, I need to verify that. But if you use GitHub is a slightly different flavor of markdown apparently. But the scripting of it generally is, the vast majority of it seems to be shared. So I know I can do things like put an image in just like I normally would, which is exclamation point, square bracket, regular parentheses, and then we'll look for, what's a New Year baby? There was a New Year baby claymation. There he is. Boy, that was a freaky claymation. Now, I do not like this kid. I don't know what it is about him, but he freaks me out. He's got these big ears that pop out. That's why he's wearing the hat. He's very self-conscious about his ears. And he's just walking around boldly naked. I mean, he's a baby, so I guess it's not a big deal. But here's one with him with Rudolph. Maybe that's not as terrible. Let's take that. So I'm going to copy that image address, and we'll put it in URL. or in the parentheses here, and we'll see, there he is. So he pops right up. So the markdown elements of Pluto are they, as far as I've seen, they're the same as they are in these other environments. Now they have these callouts. I haven't looked to see how many different types of callouts they have, but this one's an informational callout. It looks similar to Quarto callouts. So let's do a quick look here before we see some of these other capabilities. I want to know Pluto callout types. And man, AI is just taking over everything. It's like it comes up now as the first search always. Well, you're not helping me thing. Maybe they don't call them callouts. Oh, here it is. This is what I want. Oh, these are obsidian. Obsidian is something different. Pluto just might not be well enough established, maybe. I didn't know what Pluto was until within, I don't know, the last couple of weeks or so. How many different callout types are there within Pluto? See how Grok does here. Now Grok is terrible at giving you code, but for just finding stuff, it might be okay. There, that's what we want. So there's a note. We saw a note already. Info warning, important danger. Come on, you can't tell me it's exactly the same as Quarto. Is that true? Is that really true? No, I did not expect that. Let's check this. Let's see. So we should be able to write our own. Well, there's a lot going on here. We should be able to write our own callouts. The structure is markdown. And then see here, they're starting to use more complexity. So they have three double quotes stacked as an opening fence, and then the closing fence is going to be the same. But within this, they want to use double quotes, so that's why they're doing that. Now, I'm not sure if you need to use 3 or if you can use less. But let's actually, let's make our own here. First of all, I'm going to show you an error that I found. So if you do MD space, double quotes, and say, I am writing in Pluto, I'm going to get an error on that. And this is how consequential spaces are within this. Now, Pluto, they have they have a really neat integration with debugging, and I think maybe because they just, I guess I don't know the reason, but I suspect that because it's kind of this open sourced, we want everything to be better and we want to just get continual feedback, that it's built into part of the system, where if you make an error, they'll ask you if you want to do this continually, if you want to be asked every time, or if it's okay to do it. But they'll actually integrate immediately with an AI, and that AI will correct your script for you. Now, it added a couple of things. It added those 3 opening and closing fences, but it also deleted, you see this in red here, the dash. There is no dash, that's a space, but it's saying I deleted it, so I'm going to accept that and go ahead and rerun it, and there it works. So their AI integration is fun. It's so much fun, and it's just slick. It's painless. There's nothing you need to do. That's not me that actually is paying for anything. That's the Pluto people. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's Walt Disney that's paying. So let's try some of these. We already know note, but let's try it again. Oh, that's why they do triple quotes, is because they're expecting the title of the note to be here. This is a note. And then the content of the note we put below there, so we can say blah, blah, blah. I'll try to run that. There's my note. It looks, oh, why does it look different? So I'm not getting the piping around it. So if you look at this one that they specify, it looks to me like the commands are the same. I'm going to copy this, try a new command chunk and see. Isn't that weird? It seems weird to me. Maybe I need more. Lorem ipsum. And I'm sorry. I'm not gonna dwell on this all night. I'm just. Yeah, I'm still not getting that piping. I don't see other than indentation. The only thing I'm seeing that's different is indentation. I wonder if that's it. Okay, so wow, this is like one of, you gotta be. It's like a kindergarten game, which is, which of these things are the same and which of these things are different. It looks like indentation is giving me a little formatting consequence there. So I'll be careful about that. Let's add some more. So let's do an MD. I just want to check out a couple of these. And you probably don't need to do headings, I'm guessing, but might as well. I'm not being very creative tonight. And we'll just call it a heading, or I guess it's not a heading, but a title. And warning should be fun. And I'll indent. Look up behind you. The killer is in the house. There we go. So again, we're missing an icon. These look very similar to Quarto callouts. We're just missing the icon that Quarto has. We probably could figure out how to add those in there. I know that we can put kind of emoji type things in here because I've seen it, but I don't. What do we want to call these? ASCII emojis, maybe. I don't know, is that even a thing? I'm just looking for something. No, that's not what I want. Just do emoji. I want like a not hex code. What am I thinking? There is a code. Let's just take this hamburger here. Okay, I copied a green apple, apparently. And it copies over fine. There it is. Well, that was easy. That couldn't be easier. Okay. The killer's in the house, and he's got a green apple, apparently. Okay. So that's, there's all kinds of tutorials that you can play with in there, but let's see if we can do our own notebook. So we should be able to create a new one. And again, I think this is on the link. If it's not on the link, you might want to install Julia and then follow the commands that I have. Follow the sequence of, I guess, commands that I have on the second to last slide on this week's slides. So let's do markdown, see if we remember what we're doing here. And we'll say, let's do an analysis. We're going to do a fun analysis with a cool visual. And then we don't need to put it. I would normally put an image in, but I'm not going to. And then if you want to, again, when you're sharing this, there's a process to publish it, but to share it, you're going to want to probably hide on that Cleopatra eye the actual specifications themselves. If I want a new chunk, I just hit one of those plus signs. It's I'm sorry, not chunk, but cell. Just hit one of those plus signs. Now, I don't know Julia, so we're going to do, let's do a Julia code visualization. This one, we've been here before, so we'll check it out. Simple is beautiful. How is that simple? I mean, it is beautiful. I don't know that it's simple. Let's go ahead and copy code that they have. And maybe we'll add to this a little bit. They say this is simple. We have our severe doubts. Then let's see if we can add a, I know I get so distracted with these things, but let's see if we can add a GIF on this, see what that looks like. Let's do a search for doubt. There's Ron Burgundy. Let's see if we can get that in there. Yeah, it works. These are so fun. These environments are so fun. Like, I don't know. I'm glad I'm a psychologist and I don't have to worry about like doing this as part of my job. But I also just appreciate that these exist and they're out there. And now I want a cigarette. I'm not a smoker, but I don't know. He makes it look good. Okay, so that's I screwed up my copying, didn't I? So we had that funky looking thing, the Lorenz attractor. I don't know if that's the name of the person who came up with it or if that's the thing itself. I'm guessing it's a thing, whatever this is doing. That's maybe a Lorenz attractor. It's going to attract Ron Burgundy, so I'm just going to paste it in and see what happens here. Did not like that. Now here, look at this. Like, so this is one of the, like, I am so tempted to try to use this language for analytical purposes more. And I've used it, but I don't understand it. I've only used it by asking AI or to, same as we did with OJS, with observable JS. Like, I don't know it, but we now have tools that can help us script such that we can create something that we want to create. The way that these AIs are saying, I mean, this is just amazing. It's like, how would you like to fix it? I'm giving you two options to fix it. I don't know. Let's try this. Now, one of the things I have not yet found is how to run all of these. And I'm looking at my status bar down here. It looks like it's actually kind of auto running these. It is. It's running those. It's going through each of these cells. So I didn't have to look at that. Okay, so it made a plot. And sometimes, so like ggplot, sometimes the way you construct these is you layer. So you create something and then you layer on that. Look at that. Oh my goodness. I think I'm in love with Pluto. I'm definitely giving Positron I'm giving it more time. But man, the more we play with some of these other ones, I love them. Now we would probably want to try to hide this empty one. It's output, so I can't just, what I'm hiding here is I'm hiding the scriptings. And it looks like kind of similar to Quarto documents. We have different types of output. There's messages, there's errors, there's warnings. And it looks to me like we're getting some of that here. I'm sure we could suppress those if we wanted to. But this is so neat. This is so cool. I don't know this language. I don't know this environment, but look what we just created. Looks like a portal into a different dimension. Okay, there's one more thing that I thought we would check tonight. And let's go ahead and do that. So the other thing I thought we would check was on this week's second to last slide here, I swapped out the URL, or I'm sorry, I swapped out the hyperlink in the title to this slide. And I swapped that out for some examples of Pluto notebooks that other people have written. I didn't do enough research to see what disciplines might be using this. So again, with OJS, it was kind of interesting. We saw that the journalism industry was using OJS. Blew my mind. Had no idea that that was even in the cards. I don't know who uses Pluto, but it could be kind of climatologists here. There's a lot of climate specific things, or it could just be random that I stumbled across this. Now, one of the reasons I thought this might be fun is that there's a consistent kind of way of organizing these, and that is they have access to the code itself, and then they have the notebooks themselves. So the notebooks, we'll take a look at that first. Here's what it looks like, kind of all nice and published. They have some interactivity in here. And this is one of the things people apparently like using these notebooks for. And if you wanted to spend a little more time on, if we want it to be, it takes 9 minutes. Okay, we don't have 9 minutes. So let's look for an easier one. Let's look for an easier one that's not in some weird language. Sorry, not weird, not English. Takes about 1 minute. Okay, that sounds fine. Oh, so it looks like we're gonna have to. It looks like it wants to know where we want to run it. So I'm gonna actually see if we can. Now, which one was that? I think it was this one. Yeah, okay. It says it takes about a minute to run. That's acceptable. I'm going to copy the URL here, and this is all the code. This is all the plain text code that is being used to power that notebook. Now, in my interface on my local machine, I actually have an option to go into one of the notebooks that I've already started working on, or to open one. Now, theoretically, oh, look at that. So it looks like it has its own library. Those aren't, I was looking at those folders for a second to see if I recognize them. And it looks like those are not on my local machine, but those are folders that are maybe accessible. I'm not sure this is going to work, but what I did was I just pasted in the URL from that notebook that we were actually looking at. It says when it says it takes about a minute to run, I'm guessing what it's talking about is this status that we see down here. And this is different. So I don't know how complex these notebooks are. I am surprised that the markdown one even took a little bit of time. But maybe there's some packages in there that just there shouldn't be, right? Because we didn't really, I don't know. Maybe there was something in there that was gooping it up a little bit. It does give you time estimates there too. So I get a 13 seconds. A couple of them are still spooling up. Then there's looks like 3 milliseconds. So it took 3 milliseconds for the analysis section. Where's analysis? Analysis must just be an internal kind of status, I'm guessing. There's a notify when done. Is someone going to show up to my door? What's going to happen here? I almost said mailman. The postal delivery person is going to show up. Let's see what happens. I have no idea how it's going to notify me. I don't know if I've ever been notified on a browser before. And again, I'm expecting that we're going to see some of those visuals that we saw. We didn't have full interactivity, but we actually saw them. Just accessing the link itself. So this is already at a minute and a half just for that resolve portion. Oh, it is package management. Okay, so it is. Sorry, I didn't read that. I was just looking at the time. So it needs to install, and it looks like it's doing it on my machine. So I'm guessing that black that you're seeing is actually my console. Let's see, what do we have to amuse us while we actually wait? Do I have anything festive here? Oh, we haven't done this one for a while. I don't know what that was intended for. This is a fun one. If you have some holiday guests that you aren't so keen on.
Intruder alert, intruder alert. Yelda humanoid.
Let's see, what else do we have? Well, it's actually it's on package 80 of 252. So this is obviously going to be longer than, it's probably going to be longer than it's worth for already being 5 minutes over. So I think I'm just going to call it. But if you're interested in Pluto, I'm going to play with it some more because it just seems like a fun environment. If you want some more on that, just drop me a note and I'd be happy to come back to this and check it out. Otherwise, next week we're on to Q, the letter Q. So that'll probably just be Quarto. I might just do a kind of bare bones, kind of basic intro to Quarto and what it is and how we're using it, that kind of thing. Or we could study Qbert if you prefer. So if you want Qbert, drop me a note. Otherwise, it's probably going to be Quarto. All right. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and more germane, I guess, Happy New Year, everyone. See you in 2026.